Because if the world does go on a global Bitcoin standard, a lot of these institutions starve because they all work on fiat money and the Ponzi schemes that are fiat money. And Bitcoin eviscerates and eradicates all of that. So that's one way it can be defunded and destroyed. The banking business has gone from your local banker making a loan to start a business to being somebody who's trying to actively get you into debt, right? All civility has been drained from the system. And a lot of people are not gonna do well. You know, when you're talking to somebody, you got $1 million trade on the line, it's like, brother, you got to sell it in a way that they want it and they don't care about you. It's the number go up psychology that brings a lot of people in, but it's not really what it does. It's not about just I'm buying it cheap, it's going higher, I made money. That's the least important part of Bitcoin.
Bitcoin has dropped below $96,000, and figures like Elon Musk warn the worst may be ahead. Max Keiser says the current sell-off is just the beginning of a Bitcoin tsunami that will reshape the entire crypto market as the global fiat system inches toward collapse. He notes that BlackRock and even entire countries are moving toward Bitcoin, making adoption more urgent than ever with prices still down over 14% this month. Keiser argues that nation-states must integrate Bitcoin before the current monetary system breaks down. While most focus on tariffs and inflation, Keiser highlights a hidden shift. New U.S. depreciation rules have effectively slashed the corporate tax rate to around 10–12%, making the U.S. the lowest tax major economy. He believes this structural change will play a major role in Bitcoin's direction in the coming month.
Stop. You don't have time. Don't miss out this 2025 bull run. Educate yourself first ahead of the crowd. We have created the ultimate step-by-step crypto cheat guide that will guide you this bull run. Unlock the secrets of crypto and make smarter investments today. Now by clicking on the link below to get your exclusive copy just under $10.
Everything that you say in terms of deception and corruption is funded by folks that are easily just print money all day long.
Yes,
right? There's no accountability. They can just print any mistake you make, you just print more money. Yeah. And that creates a malinvestment. It creates a feeling that morals don't exist anymore. There's nothing ethical anymore. If I make a problem, I do something wrong, I just print more money.
Yes.
So Bitcoin is absolutely scarce. You can't print it. So it's truth. As a matter of fact, years ago, at the Time or Newsweek magazine ran a cover story, Bitcoin, the truth machine. It is literally the embodiment of what you would expect to be the truth. And if you can apply that to your money, then you can think about money in a different way.
Go on.
Which is how to be able to communicate truth from person to person without being censored by anybody who's trying to tell you what the truth really is. If you know in your heart what the truth is and you want to communicate and you want to transact and you want to be in a community with somebody and you only use Bitcoin, it's unconfiscatable and it's uncensorable. So no one can take my Bitcoin and no one can stop me from transacting my Bitcoin. If we're all in the same path of discovering the truth, then that means that collectively, using Bitcoin as that medium of exchange and store of value, we are building that citadel, that edifice, that place that we all dream about. If the big states and the macro and the states decide they don't like it, there's nothing they can do about it. That's why these circular economies are thriving. You can't ban Bitcoin. You can only ban yourself from Bitcoin. So you have all these circular economies popping up, and they're all going to merge, and this country will essentially become a decentralized country. It'll be governed by the people who have all the money. The government itself will just be there to assist the people in what they need to get done, that they can help out with in whatever way they can, but they have no authority on the money supply. The money is owned by the people.
I get that, and I like that. So then how significant historically has the establishment of currencies been in empire and power? How significant, like literally coinage and exchange, how significant has that been? So how important was the establishment of the dollar for the United States and various other sovereign forms of,
money existed before the state. Bitcoin separates money from state. Bitcoin kills the state. That's the path. You know, the president was trading Bitcoin back in 2017. He was talking about it. He recognized the Bitcoin as being a way for this country to leapfrog into the main stage of geopolitics. But in the UK, you have people that understand this, that are becoming Bitcoiners, who are seceding essentially from the state. Now, what the state has done is they've ramped up their attack by doing what's called central bank digital currency.
Yes.
Right, which is a surveillance technology.
Yes.
So they are in contention with each other. On a more global scale, you have like China and the United States and the UK and Europe are now involved in what I call the global hash war, where they understand that Bitcoin is the only real true asset that is going to mean anything going forward. Now they're scrambling, like the space race of the 60s, to acquire as much as possible. And also in the UK, you have what I call the Gulag casino economy. So it's a gulag, it's a digital gulag, as you've described, but it's also a casino, in that you can go to Ladbrokes, digital Ladbrokes, and bet on an outcome of something for a protein, you know, $1, £1 of protein pill to keep you alive long enough to live the next day to continue gambling at Ladbrokes. But you have no rights, you have no freedoms, and you're in the digital gulag. I mean, isn't that what we're living in now, where it's everyone's scrambling, you know, for the last crust of bread and on their own, abandoned without any governance model whatsoever, or any morals or any ethics. So, and also in the UK, the corollary to that is that in the UK, because it is so painful for so many, you have, as a byproduct, living through the hell of governments run rampant by printing lots of money. There's a very high adoption of Bitcoin already as a way to escape the inflation. So and Bitcoin is inflation proof.
Max Keiser warns that another major crypto collapse is approaching, one that big players like BlackRock are already preparing for. Despite this, he remains confident in the long-term outlook. He predicts Bitcoin will surge dramatically in the second half of 2025, viewing any upcoming volatility as part of the setup for a much larger rally.
The multi-hundred year, really the 1,000-year presence of a monarchy in England, you know, how do you break through that? Well, for 1,000 years, we've always had the situation where if you put together a community and they start trading with each other and that there's money involved, that money is always controlled by a governing authority. And that's been true since the beginning of time. Only in 2009, on January 3rd, when the Bitcoin made its appearance, is the first time ever in history that money can exist entirely out of a central authority. That means that people are free to live without having that central authority controlling that thing that they use every single day to get by through the day. And that's why it's such an interesting possibility with Bitcoin to achieve the ultimate, I mean, the highest dreams and ideals that one would hope for in terms of unleashing the human potential that we all have, but has always seems to get snuffed out at some point in the journey. Central banks have been tried in the US several times and they all got defeated. And then on Christmas Eve or over the Christmas break, some bankers got together on Jekyll Island famously, and they created the Federal Reserve Bank. And yes, that does centralize the money supply, and it also takes the money supply creation out of the hands of the government and puts it into a private bank owned by private bankers. So that is really, and also introduced income tax. So that was, before then, the U.S. only had sin tax for tobacco, alcohol, things like that, right? There was no actual income tax, and they started off very small, now it's gotten very big.
Wow.
And so that's highly significant in the history of the United States, and it's the beginning of all that money in income tax goes to feeding this thing called the state, and the state, as we know, more and more and more, whether it's Elon Musk and his Doge program exposing vast waste of trillions of dollars.
Well, with the U.S., under Trump, it's like a fantastic break, trying to get rid of all the waste and the fraud and the abuse. And he's really in a position to rejigger the economy and bring in a lot of jobs, right? The whole tariff scheme is bring in a lot of these factories and factory jobs and bring them all back and have them in the U.S. And he might be successful. You know, at the current trajectory, if things keep going the way they are, I would think he would be successful. So you're at this point. You're at this point. So it's either, you know, give in and capitulate, which to me comes back to Bitcoin, right? So Bitcoin is something that can throw some light into these shadows and give somebody some purpose where maybe they don't feel they have purpose. Thankfully, it's not a get-rich-quick scheme. It's a get-rich-slow scheme, because instant wealth usually brings instant problems. More money, more problems, right? Don't compare yourself to anybody else. There's nobody else out there is on your journey, and they don't care about you. Yeah. I don't know if I could survive if I were 31 years old right now. I don't know if I could survive, really. It's too daunting. For me, as I explained it, it was easy. For you and your generation, it's really, really hard. And a lot of people are not gonna do well. But you know, I think with Bitcoin, It offers a lot of philosophical depth. It's successful because it's a community, right? It's open source community. It's like open source software meets money, right? It's what made open source software successful, because it's superior to centralized software. Decentralized open source software is a better solution because it's community driven, community led, and the community will always do better than a centralized system, right? So it's very important. It's the key aspect to it, the community of Bitcoin. And as the community grows, all the metrics improve. People are actually quite poor in the US, a lot poorer than the statistics would capture. And so there's a lot of, on the fringes and on the margins, there's a lot of folks that are in desperate situations.
Max Keiser argues the global financial system is breaking, with rising debt, inflation, and central banks losing control. He warns that neither hyperinflation nor a deflationary crash can be avoided, and both would erode living standards as trust in fiat continues to collapse. He says this instability is pushing leaders and institutions toward Bitcoin as a possible solution. In his view, a Bitcoin-based system may become one of the few viable paths as traditional finance weakens. Do you think Bitcoin can realistically replace parts of the current financial system? Which outcome do you see coming first, hyperinflation or a major economic crash? Share your thoughts in the comments. For more Daily Dose Crypto news, check out these 2 awesome videos on your screen. Click now and we will see you on the next video.